Welcome back, football fans. It is the biggest night in Clubland, the Champions League final. Arsenal against PSG. Current and reigning champions PSG against Arsenal, who are full of confidence, having just lifted their first Premier League trophy in 22 years. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, a little bit of a preview on the game. It is, of course, the Champions League final. It is being played in Budapest. This is the stadium, and it is being played at 5 p.m. UK time. So a slightly different kickoff time for this Champions League final so that more eyeballs can get on it. Now, some team news for both teams. We have one player for each team that is currently a doubt. The first is Hakimi for PSG. He has not been playing since before the semi-final against Bayern Munich. He is such an important player for them, but they have done okay without him. That said, he would be an incredible addition to the lineup for them, given his experience, given that he scored in the previous final against Inter Milan, where they demolished them 5-0. And for Arsenal, Hakimi Timber has been back in training, but he is, again, around 75% chance of playing this game, same as Hakimi. So both right-backs are in the spotlight. And I think out of the two situations, I would be more concerned about Hakimi Timber coming up against the trio of players that PSG have, and they all rotate at the top end of the pitch, so it could be any one of them on that left wing at any time. I really do think you need a solid, steady and actual right back playing. Arteta tried Declan Rice at right back. He's not going to make the same mistake in this game. Now on to some team stats before we look at the referee and player data, and then of course we will make our predictions. And the OddAlerts probability model is officially favouring Arsenal here, 41.5%. And that actually means that Arsenal to win after 90 minutes is a value bet. Do with that what you will, but after 90 minutes, 3.37 is the peak with 1xBet. Arsenal are a value bet. I will just give you my current and gut feelings here, is that I'm finding it tough to call a winner, but I do not see a game where PSG don't score. I can't see it. I know Arsenal have kept many clean sheets in recent weeks, as we can just check out here, on their way to the English Premier League. Goals conceded. They conceded against Palace in what was a dead rubber, but before that they kept 4 clean sheets in a row, including against Atletico Madrid in the second leg. When they need to shut up shop, they can do it, but I just believe PSG and that trio of players, not just at the top end of the pitch, but in the middle of the pitch as well, the midfield trio is so good that I think it might make Arteta change his team structure a little bit for this one. And for PSG, if we look at the goals scored, they have scored a goal in each of their last 27 games. And you can see that even before that, it is rare that they don't score goals. The last time they failed to score was in January against Paris in the Coupe de France. So the odds are pretty enticing, especially if you are an Arsenal fan, 3.37. What I was actually looking at initially was over 2.5 goals at 2.08. We saw the craziness between PSG and Bayern Munich in the Champions League this season, 5-4. I don't believe we're going to see a game like that. But when PSG are playing, I don't think it's in their DNA to do an Arsenal, shall we say, for them to sit back and just try and keep a clean sheet, try and keep Arsenal at bay. I think they're capable of doing that, by the way, but it would be a pretty boring final. And Arsenal, I don't think they've come all this way to just do what they did in the Carabao Cup final against Manchester City, which is sit back, try and absorb the pressure. But against a team like Manchester City and a team like PSG, even more so against PSG, it's not a good game plan, really, because PSG will score against you. They will. If you let them come onto you and invite the pressure, they're too good. They will score. And in the Champions League this season, there have been 4.13 goals per game in PSG's fixtures. They have scored 2.75 goals per game. Arsenal 2.07. Arsenal have conceded just 6 goals in the Champions League this season compared to the 22 for PSG. So that is quite a dramatic difference. Both teams failing to score in a very low number of games, as you would expect. Not many nil-nils, as you would expect. Clean sheet percentages much higher for the Arsenal. So my initial predictions, and remember to get yours in the comments, is that Arsenal can win this final, but they're going to have to score more than once, and they're more than capable. But PSG can just hit you right back. Let's take a look at the referee data before moving to some player data, which will hopefully shape our view of this game. We're going to put together a couple of selections. The first is one that I feel has the best chance of landing, given what I think will happen in the game. The second one will be a bit more of a player prop selection, and we had a really nice 5-1 winner on the last weekend of the Premier League. Daniel Siebert is the referee, the man in the middle. Let's take a look at his Champions League form from this season. 10 games officiated, 5.2 cards per game, 5 red cards in 10 games in the Champions League this season. Maybe he officiated one of those crazy games. Chelsea, Benfica, 2 red cards, and Fenerbahce, Benfica with Jose Mourinho. 2 red cards in successive games under this referee. The average, you would say, here is around 4 cards for him per game. We can see that, again, like most referees that we cover on this channel, he likes to keep his cards in his pocket in the first half, 3.7 cards per second half. In terms of booking both teams, he's done it in 9 out of his 10 Champions League games so far this season. Now let's take a look at the card data for both of these teams, and they are both pretty well disciplined. You have to say, just 1 card on average per game for PSG, 1.57 for the Arsenal. Over 2.5 cards in just 56 and 57% of games, so just under 60% for both of them. Again, because of the way they control the ball, they don't get many cards because they have such control over the game. Arsenal have received a card in 71% of games, but 2 cards in just 50%. It is even lower for PSG. But interestingly, their opponents nearly always get booked. 93% of games for Arsenal, 81% for PSG. Will both teams receive a card in the Champions League final? Remember to get your predictions in the comments for your chance to win 3 months. This is a Champions League final special. 3 months of OddAlerts Pro. All you've got to do is add your prediction in the comments and hit like and subscribe whilst you're down there. Now, on to the next section of the video. Just one more data point that I wanted to show you here, which I think tells a pretty interesting story. So we're looking at shots on target 4. So the number of shots on target in a game by these teams. And we're looking at the Champions League data. 7 shots on target against Bayern Munich at Bayern Munich for PSG. 5 at home. 6 at Liverpool. 6 at Liverpool again. 5 and 8 against Chelsea, 6 and 10 against Monaco. So they are the knockout games. Let's look at Arsenal. 2 against Atletico Madrid, 2 against Atletico Madrid, 1 against Sporting, 4 against Sporting, 12 against Leverkusen in the second leg, just 2 in the first leg. Certainly lower when you get to the knockout stages for Arsenal. How many shots on target will they have against PSG? Something tells me they are going to have to up their numbers. These are rookie numbers. Now on to the player props tool. We start to type Arsenal and we see Paris Saint-Germain against Arsenal, and Kvaratskhelia there is one of the danger men, if not the danger men. I mentioned him and the trio of players for PSG. They're just so deadly and devastating when they attack, especially on the counter. I'm not sure if Arsenal can handle it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Across the last 20 games, he is averaging more goals than any player in this squad. Let's look at the last 10 games, shall we? He's still right up there. Not many starts. 10 appearances, 7 starts. Same for Dembele. They have the luxury of being able to rest in Liga 1 quite more than Arsenal can, especially when you're being chased by Manchester City. Let's take a look at some player data, shall we? So Kvaratskhelia again is top of the list. Mikel Merino not expected to play, but for Jules 1, he is a big physical left wing player with a great engine on him, never stops running, as is Doué as well, Mendes, Hernandez. Mosquera is there as well for Arsenal. If he does play, he's going to have an 8 out of 10 game at right back. It is so important. Fouls per 90, Mikel Merino and Mosquera is there again. And let me tell you, if Mosquera is starting at right back up against Kvaratskhelia, then he is in my bucket for a foul. No doubt about that. Maybe 2 fouls, as we see here. He commits 2.26 per game. Fouls drawn per 90. Lewis-Skelly played in the semi-final. Will he play in this game? Some big choices for Mikel Arteta to make. Eze drawing 2 fouls per game. Trossard, another big game player for Arsenal. Gyökeres, will he start or will it be Kai Havertz? Me personally, in this type of game, it's Kai Havertz all day long. Can bring other players into the game much more effectively than Victor Gyökeres, but Victor Gyökeres is that fox in the box that you may just need when it gets to the last 20-30 minutes or so. Nuno Mendes, Mosquera also winning fouls. He can get forward quite well, Mosquera. He's not a bad player at all, but such a big game for him should he start. Now, in terms of shots on target percentages, so how many games did they have a shot on target? We see Kvaratskhelia again at the top, 71.4%, so 70% of his games. He started 7 of those games. He's a great choice, isn't he? Off that left side, Dembele, Calafiori, 57%. Calafiori for a shot on target, maybe a headed shot on target, is an interesting option, really. How stretched will PSG get? If they don't have the right back that they want, which is Hakimi, then surely there may be some interesting spaces opening up for Calafiori. And 57.1% across his last 10 fixtures, 7 of those starts, is not a bad option at all. And Doué at 57.1 as well. The obvious choice is Kvaratskhelia or Dembele. And if tackles is your thing, you have Hincapié, Zubimendi, who could come into the game. I think he is averaging 3 tackles per game across his last 10. Lucas Hernandez, 2.44. Fabián Ruiz, really, really useful player, 2.44 in the middle. The enforcer who allows Vitinha and Neves to do so much good work. So that is the player props tool. There is so much more to be explored, but of course we try and keep these videos digestible and not too long. This one is probably going to be a bit long anyway, but regardless, let's jump to Bet365 and start putting some stuff together for this huge game. Remember to get your predictions in the comments for your chance to win 3 months. This is a Champions League final special. 3 months of OddAlerts Pro. All you've got to do is add your prediction in the comments and hit like and subscribe whilst you're down there. Now, on to the next section of the video. So my first selection, keeping it pretty simple here. Over 2.5 goals. I think PSG will come out strong in this game. And if they do get that first goal, then Arsenal will have to respond, which leads to more space and more goals for PSG, in my opinion. Most shots on target PSG, I think that's a great option to add given the data for Arsenal in the knockout stages of the Champions League. I think they're very good at defending, obviously, but when they come up against big, great attacking teams like this, they find it difficult. They lost to Man City twice in the Premier League in recent months. And I actually think on their day, PSG are a little bit better at the top end of the pitch in this recent 18 months than Manchester City. More fluid, more mesmerising. So there is definitely a world where PSG score 2 or 3 goals in this game. I could be very wrong. Arsenal could surprise me and turn up and keep a clean sheet, but I would be very surprised. And over 1 card in the second half, we see this a lot in finals, especially towards the end of the game. You get cards for time wasting, you get cards for reckless fouls, because you just don't want to give anything away at that period in time, or depending on the game state, frustration. So 3.75, that is my core bet builder for this game. Now let's do some player options mixed with stats. And just looking here, just to, sometimes looking at other options and other lines gives you a kind of feeling of what the bookies are expecting of Arsenal. And I'm quite surprised for Arsenal to have under 4.5 shots on target is 1.57. I know we saw the data, and I still think PSG will have more shots than Arsenal, but in a Champions League final, if you were an Arsenal fan and they came out, having 2 or 3 shots on target, you'd probably be pretty disappointed. But the bookies are not expecting that much from Arsenal in terms of shots on target. They're expecting a certain type of performance that we have seen from them in recent games, especially that Manchester City final. If they repeat that kind of performance that they did in the Carabao Cup, I think you can give the trophy to PSG now. So the second selection leverages some of that data we saw on the player props tool, and there's a lot of interesting options, but I don't have the luxury of lineups when looking at player prop selections. So if you follow on X and join the Discord, I will be taking another look a lot closer to kickoff, of course, once we have confirmed team news such as Mosquera over and Timber. Is Hakimi going to be playing? These kind of things. But these players here I expect to start this game. Fabián Ruiz to commit a foul in the middle. Going to be a busy hold game in the middle of the pitch. Some fantastic players on show in that centre area. Ricardo Calafiori to have a shot. Not a shot on target, just a shot. And Arsenal over 1 card in this final. Can they do it? Can this one come in? 3s. Next, we're going to put together one that Arsenal fans may appreciate. So this one leans on our probability model. Of course, Arsenal are a value bet for this game, but I've reduced a little bit of risk here. Draw or Arsenal under 4 goals and PSG to get over 1 card. So I've tried to just put something together for a few different scenarios in my head. Arsenal could take this game to extra time, and then who knows what could happen. I don't like to outright say who's going to win in these types of games, because I've seen some crazy Champions League finals over the years, and anything really can happen. So with that said, let me know what you're thinking about this game in the comments. 3 months OddAlerts Pro on the line. I will announce the winner in the next video, which will be a World Cup preview where we look at some World Cup long predictions, such as who will qualify out of the groups, top scorers, player of the tournament, these kind of things. But for now, let's keep talking about the Champions League final. Get your predictions in the comments. Can't wait to read them. Hopefully it is an exciting game, and hopefully, Arsenal can bring it home for the English. But I question whether they can. See you in the next one.